Hi, I'm Jane Farnham from Great British Speakers, and I'm here today chatting to the fabulous, motivational and inspirational Team GB heptathlete, Kelly Sotherton. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, nice to be with you, Jane.
Oh, it's lovely to see you. So, first of all, let's just tell us a little bit about your early life, how you got involved with what's generally regarded as one of the most challenging sporting competitions. How did it start? Did it start with one sport, or did you decide this was what you were going to do from the beginning?
I'm probably one of those kids that everybody was annoyed at and hated at school because I did everything, every after school club, every after school sport possible. I just did it because I just love being a part of a team, and all my friends did the same. And then after a certain age, probably at age about 10, 11, I started to really focus on netball, hockey and athletics. And I just loved doing everything. I love running, jumping and throwing. Wasn't so good at throwing, but I still enjoyed doing it. So that's where my love of doing multi-sport, multi-events came from, just wanting to do everything. And it was in that time where, you was able to do and access everything. So I think I felt very fortunate that I was able to do all of those events. And I had great PE teachers that obviously pushed and supported me to do that.
So I guess it started at county level, as it does with most athletes, and then how do you move from there into the main competitive arena and global arena?
So I come from the Isle of Wight, so I had to go to Portsmouth to get all my competition and training because they were the only place that had an athletics track that was near me. So I had to get a train and a boat to go training and to compete every week. And so going to county schools, representing the Isle of Wight, and then Hampshire at English schools competition, doing well there, and then getting recognised by national coaches, being invited to national camps, and then eventually get invited to represent England and Great Britain at age group level. So it is a process, and you start low and you just build up, and every year you just move up a level, and to the level where you do your first major championships, which for me was Manchester Commonwealth Games in 2002, and then from there that sets the seed and the motivation to go to the Olympics.
Wow! So what sort of age were you then?
So I got my first international when I was 15 years old for England, and that was in Glasgow, 1991, a long time ago. And what's really interesting, out of the whole team that went to that school championships representing England, I was the only one who went to an Olympic Games. So it's just, and there was a team of I think about 60. So it just shows you how tough it is, even if you are an international and as a young athlete, what the success rate is going and making it to an Olympic Games. It's really, really small, really, really hard. And then I didn't get my first GB international until I was 18, and that was in Russia, of all places, in Moscow. Very interesting place to have your first international. But then it took at least 7 years before I made my senior debut, and that was at the Commonwealth Games in 2002 for England. And I was at the age of 25, so I took quite a long time from being a junior athlete to then transitioning to a senior athlete.
And what would you say is your biggest achievement to date in terms of awards and medals, and what's the one that you hold closest to your heart?
Well, you'd always think that the one medal that would be special would be your Olympic medal or medals, and they are. But most recently, I've got my MBE, and so I think
congratulations.
Thank you very much. And being recognised for that is basically the medal of all medals because it's recognised in everything that you've done. Going to Windsor Castle with Prince Charles, the future king, giving that MBE, it's a major honour. So I've only had that in my grasp for the last week or so. So I think that's special because that combines everything and it represents everything that I've done and achieved, not just as medals, but what I've done for my sport and what I'm continually doing for my sport. So I'd like to upgrade it one day, obviously. So I'm ambitious. It's just like getting a bronze medal. When can I get the next one? I'm very ambitious of moving up that scale. But I'd say my MBE because I've never smiled so much receiving that.
Oh, congratulations. Well deserved. Obviously, it wasn't all easy along the way. What would you say your biggest challenges, or what was your toughest moment along the way throughout your journey?
So in 2008, I went to the Olympics, Beijing, probably favourite to win, but I'd had a lot of injury problems there that would have scuppered those chances. But I had an opportunity to win a medal, and I was there for 2 events, and I came away coming 5th in both, and that's the heptathlon and the 4x4 relay. But during those Olympic Games, I also got upgraded from 5th to 4th in the heptathlon. So, okay, but that's great, but it still doesn't give me a medal. And so I felt very unsatisfied. And then it was about 7-8 years later that I found out that our 4x4 team were going to get upgraded to a bronze because 2 members of the relay teams that finished above us had failed doping tests. So then we got upgraded. And then 6 months later, in the middle of 2017, I found out that the Russian athlete who'd finished above me in 3rd had also had a sample retested from Beijing and it failed. So then I was in line for another bronze, and I just don't think anybody else has been given 2 bronze medals 10 years later before at the Olympics. So after that process was done, I had to wait another year and a half before I got hold of those medals, or I was allowed to be given them. And I was really fortunate to get them in 2 special places, one at the Olympic Stadium in London with my teammates for the 4x4, and at the Team GB Ball that was celebrating Pyeongchang 2018 Olympians in a really small, intimate service, getting that medal and a standing ovation for 4 minutes, you know, and people crying, but they understood why, like, I was getting that medal so late. But then I felt that my career was ended, and I actually felt the bitterness that I had just disappeared and dissipated. And I felt, actually, now in my career, I feel like I've had a great career, because I knew in my heart of hearts they were my medals. I just couldn't prove it. I had to wait for something to happen, if it ever happened. So I kind of feel vindicated now and feel more at ease and at peace, if that makes sense. So I feel, yeah, when you say I'm a 3-time Olympic medalist, not many people can say that, if hardly any. So I feel a massive, great sense of achievement. And then being topped off 3 years later with an MBE to confirm what I have achieved. Again, probably 10 years late, because I probably would have got that MBE 10 years ago too. So everything comes late for me. But hey, good things are worth waiting for, right? So yeah, so there's a lot of bittersweet, but also, you know, I'm real about the situation. So
that must have been really tough and frustrating for you to miss out on those medals first time round, and they've been given them to you at a later date. That it just must have been infuriating. What do you draw upon? I mean, where do you get your strength from and your resilience? Because I know that's what you tend to, you talk a lot about that, don't you, when you go out and speak to people?
Yeah, I think, you know, naturally when you're an elite performer, you have a high natural level of resilience anyway. And I know, not to bang on the drum about my upbringing, but I come from a single parent family. I'm an only child, you know, grew up on a council estate, didn't have very little. So anything I did have, I really hold and feel humble about, and a sense of achievement without the bragging. I don't like bragging. Well, I might brag a little bit sometimes after in the company that I know, and make people curtsy and stuff. That's the ongoing joke currently. And it's quite funny. But I think it's just the strength of character, and being real. And I do not want to be one of these people from any sector or any walk of life where you just carry bitterness. I just didn't want that to be that person in 10, 15 years time when I'm sitting in a chair, when I'm old, complaining about what I should have had and what I could have got. I just want to tell people what I achieved without being bitter about it. So I just think I'm naturally resilient, and I'm very much a pragmatist, really, and just honest, and my integrity is real. I don't know. I think because it's so natural, it's just there.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate to have that ability. Doesn't mean I can't be upset and cry and be vulnerable, because I can be, and I show that, and I'll let people know I'm very vulnerable. And I think that's important. However, I can allow that to happen and grieve of that and move forward and feel very humble about what I've achieved.
And do you think, then going back to the doping, because do you think any lessons have actually been learnt along the way? Because obviously this is a big thing, and not just in athletics.
I think so. I think in any walks of life, wherever there's an opportunity to cheat, people will cheat, however small or big. And it's just ensuring that you eradicate as much as possible. It's never going to completely go away, but you just ensure that measures in place to help athletes who are clean, to ensure that every performance in whatever sport or whatever sector is done right, and all the processes and frameworks are in place. So if someone is caught, that it doesn't go on for 10 years, but also for anybody who has cheated in a sport, that actually just because you haven't been caught that year, it could be 6, 7, 8, 9 years, you still could be caught, it's not over. So that statute of limitation of 10 years in sport probably might extend soon. I heard it might go to 12 or 14. So somebody cheating now could get caught in 2032, 2035. You know, it's not over till it's over. And that's a good thing. However, now it's just ensuring that it's the public and it's the fans, ensuring that they believe what they see is real and it isn't cheating, because there is now, everybody doesn't always believe a good performance is real. They feel it's enhanced by drugs, and it's now turning that around. And how can we do that? Because that's quite important, that the fans believe what they see is real.
Absolutely. So then tell us a little bit about your post-athletics life, your media work, and of course your path into speaking.
Yeah, so as my event says, a heptathlete, fingers in pies. I love doing lots of varied things, coaching in and out of athletics. So I've worked at, Wasps Rugby. I currently work at Warwickshire Cricket with their men's first team. I'm the team leader of the Commonwealth Games next year in Birmingham 2022, which is a challenge in itself, but very exciting. I like talking about how physical performance, not just in sport but outside sport, can help you. So sleep, resilience, nutrition, looking after yourself, mental health, and being open about my experiences, about how things have affected me. As I've explained to you, Jane, recently I've had a number of deaths in the last year. How do you overcome them? I've had some depressive times. I've been on antidepressants. I've come off them. I've dealt with that, and I'm just open about it. So it's like encompassing all that and just sharing what I do and how I do it, what's worked for me, hoping that potentially I could help one person. So when I do speak to people about sport and life, it's hoping that I can help somebody, or flick a switch on someone's brain. Oh, that sounds really good, and hopefully maybe change their lives forever. So I did put something on my Instagram not too long ago. I had a fortune cookie from a Chinese, and it says, "Today's a day, your life will change." And actually from that Instagram story, my life did change. I'm not going to go into details, but it was like just doing those small little sliding door moments are really exciting, because it's like, shall I do this or shall I not do this? And they do affect the rest of your life and what direction you go. And I kind of find that exciting. Yeah. So because I like the unexpected and spontaneity and stuff like that.
I love doing new things, and I always teach my kids. I always think, say yes, because that's how you get opportunities in life. Say yes to everything, and don't shy away from it, and step out of your comfort zone. It's all these things. They all sound a bit of a cliche, but it's so true, because you don't get to experience life in its full otherwise.
Absolutely, and when I do a talk, I always say, when you're doing something, you might not like it, but say yes to everything, because you don't know what you like or don't like until you experience it. And it's always better to say, no, I don't like that, because I've given it a go. So for instance, when you do networking events and you have to go into a big room full of people you don't know, but and it's just making friends, it's going, oh, hi, I'm Kelly, and okay, everyone feels the same, because no one likes doing those events by themselves. It's awkward. But once you get used to doing that, you feel good about it. So I do say yes to as many things as possible, to find out what you like and where maybe a new passion could grow. I just think that's really important.
Me too. I'm absolutely with you there. So recently you went to see one of our clients near your old university to do a talk around mental health, which obviously is a massive subject, particularly since lockdown. We always get consistently asked about mental health speakers and resilience speakers at the moment. Now, they obviously gave us rave reviews about your talk. Now, how are you able to relate your experiences to their series of activities around colleagues' mental health within the business?
I think as a sports person, you you are also a person, so you also go through the trials and tribulations of life like everybody else done. And I think I'm quite fortunate. I've actually been in the workplace and worked. I used to work for a bank for 4 or 5 years before I became a professional athlete, so I have the understanding of the 9 till 5 drill, and understand of the pressures of life, finances, family. So it's just what I do as a person that helped me to be the best version of me, and I think that's quite critical and crucial. It's like I was able to be the best person as an athlete because I followed these ideas or rules or framework, and I just try and relate that to everyday life. So, for instance, the number one key thing to mental health is just getting rest and recovery, and that's sleep. And how do you sleep, and what key tips can you give? And it's just those simple things. It's just like anything, like a diet. Like, well, just cut something out. Don't go drastic. Just do things slowly in your own time, because it's easier to make those transitions. When you do short shocks, it's okay, but also not everybody can do that. So it's given a number of solutions to help as many people as possible, and that's what it is, because there's not one. There's so many ways of skinning a cat, basically. I shouldn't say that because my cat's outside the window, but like, there are so many ways that you can do it, and people are different learners, different receivers of communication. And I think as a coach anyway, it's like you talk to the people in front of you, and everybody responds and reacts differently to what you give. So when I do talk in any setting, especially when you talk about mental health, just try to give as much information as possible about how I've done it, and you just hope somebody relates to it, and some of the information I give out sticks on somebody. And as I said, flicking a switch on somebody, or it could just be a word or a saying or a piece of body language. And obviously through COVID, we've done lots of talks on Zoom. They're great, but in person they're even better, aren't they? Because you can have more emotive talks. I think you can hit the point a little bit more when you're in person. And I've done that a couple of times when people have been generally upset about my life in terms of not getting my medals. Somebody's cried before, was generally upset, and she goes, "That's amazing. Like, I've never seen someone cry." But then it felt, if she feels like that, like, that makes me feel motive and humble. So yeah, it's just trying to give out as much information, offer as many solutions as possible to help as many people as possible.
I think sometimes people see a journey from A to B as this huge, it has to all be done at once, but it's the baby steps, isn't it, that help you get there, and seeing, telling people that it's okay to not just do it in one, because that just seems very scary. So it's giving people tools to understand that we're all human, and we have to listen to our bodies and mental health and be kind to each other and ourselves.
It's one day at a time, isn't it? And some people do one day at a time. It could be just get through to 5 o'clock at the end of the day, and then brilliant. Once you've done it once, it's easier the next time. And it's at least 21 days to form a habit. So if you can get through 3 weeks of doing something, it will start becoming more natural, and you'll be able to do it, and then it becomes something that's part of your life, and you'd start forming good habits. Equally, it takes just as long to get rid of a bad habit. So and it's just showing the way of how it's done. And even at Elite Athlete, I have short-term goals on my fridge. So I see things, I write things down, I have lists, because I know that works for me. So it doesn't for everybody, but if you write things down, then I feel that you're accountable for them, and then you have to do them, and then you can tick them off. And it feels so much better when you can see you've achieved something. So those short-term goals leading up to long-term goals is probably what most people are more successful at doing. So yeah, like I say, if you want a glass of red wine, have it. Just have a small one. Just don't have a big one. That's you're already making progress.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I love a tick list as well. It just gives me so much pleasure ticking off a list of things that I've had, what I want to do. Finally, Kelly, what gives you the biggest buzz about speaking when you talk?
I think it's when afterwards and somebody might be sitting there, said nothing, and maybe you feel not so interested, but all of a sudden they've obviously taken in what you've said, and then they ask that poignant question relating to something that you've asked, and then and you go, oh, okay, and so you realise you've actually got to somebody what you said. And I just think it's somebody who then, even on social media, saying, like recently I had somebody said, what you said in your talk really inspired me, and I've gone off to do this. and now I've inspired my child. So you're not just inspiring one person, that ripple effect goes on, and then whatever that child does might, you know, inspire somebody else, or give somebody more aspiration. So it's just giving somebody the opportunity to have an aspiration that they may never had, or inspire someone to go and do something they've never done, like we've talked about the yes thing. And it's nice that even in the couple of weeks after you had a talk and somebody said they've gone and done something crazy, which they never would have done if they hadn't listened to you. So I've had quite a lot of them, and I think they've all ended positively. So I don't want to be sued. Kelly Sotherton told me to go and do this. I didn't.
You make them all sign a disclaimer before the talk.
I should do. I suppose it's just encouraging people to be braver. And what have you got to lose at the end of the day? You can only enhance your life and make it more fun, and it has to be fun ultimately. So my strap line is "Have a couple," but my strap line is "Laugh in the face of adversity," because, you know, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry, and sometimes crying's good, but laughing out of, there's always sunshine after rain, and I just think that's always a critical thing to remember. So I always end my little talks with something similar like that.
Well, Kelly, it's been so inspiring chatting to you today. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out to chat.
Thank you, Jane.
Now, if you'd like to book Kelly, simply contact myself or Steve at Great British Speakers on 01753 439 289, or you can email bookings@greatbritishtalent.com.